Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your Manchester United versus Aston Villa preview. Do or die, now or never, top four hopes gone forever if we don't win this game. That's what it's all about. We're going to delve into that. Unbelievable stats that go against us in relation to this, but could go for us as well. What a game it's going to be. I'll give you my predicted 11 and how I think this game's going to pan out, because in some ways, Aston Villa are the perfect team to play with that high line, but in other ways, they will obviously be looking to react after two quite shocking home losses, one in the Cup the other night and one against Newcastle last week. But before we get into all of that, some quite positive news, well, I say quite positive, some bloody very positive news coming in from Manchester United and Fabrizio Romano. Manchester United have already prepared a new contract proposal for Kobbie Mainoo. Initial discussions have already taken place with his camp to advance in talks. United want Mainoo to be a crucial part of the project, with a salary rise also included. And look, I mean, I don't think we need to be worrying too much in relation to Kobbie Mainoo. I mean, why would you want to go and play your football elsewhere? He's come through the youth setup. He's a Manchester United boy and he's playing first team football in everybody's ideal Manchester United starting lineup, including the manager Ten Hag. So I think that this is logical, but it doesn't stop it being exciting. And it also is a sign of, again, efficiency and doing things quickly to make sure. Oh, God. Oh, no. Hopefully that's not going to be starting something. But it's excitement. It's just exciting. When I get excited, I sneeze. But yeah, I think it's absolutely fantastic that we're getting these sort of deals done quickly, because obviously Garnacho's on a long contract at the moment. In fact, what is Garnacho's contract? Let me just want to check that. But obviously, also when it comes to Rasmus, he's only just signed for the club, so he's on a long contract as well. Kobbie Mainoo, get him on a contract. Yeah, Garnacho's contract runs through to 2028. So, yeah, get these players on long contracts. Let's build, let's develop, like Ten Hag was saying in his lunchtime press conference. A real positive getting Kobbie Mainoo on a deal. We're also going to get into a bit of a... I've not done a bit of a Q&A in ages, so being as it's a Thursday night before a big weekend, we will do that a little bit later. But let's talk, first of all, about this Aston Villa game. I mean, look, obviously when we play Liverpool, when we play Man City, these are big previews. But contextually, this is the game of the season, because as the season progresses, you hit different scenarios that make games bigger than maybe you thought they would be. And Aston Villa away is, without question, our biggest game of the season to date. You look at that Premier League title next to me. Man United have got 38 points. We are 6 points off Spurs in 5th place. But more importantly, 8 points off Aston Villa. You lose this game, you say bye-bye to top four. Villa are in 4th place. They go 11 points clear of us. In this league, I don't think that that's catchable. I really don't. I think it's possible in different seasons, but in this season where you look at that top 10, and that's not even looking, Chelsea are in the bottom half, you're just not going to make up 11 points on people in this league. I think points on the board are absolutely essential. So, yeah, I mean, maybe if we draw, 8 points is still doable. I wouldn't rule out 8 points, but 11 points and it's gone. So a loss and it's gone. A draw, it's possible. But remember, Aston Villa have still got Thursday, Sunday football. They're going to be going for the Conference League. But win this game, bring it down to 5 points. Oh my God, it's on. So it's absolutely massive. I mean, let's do a little bit of a poll here as well. Just bring this in to add a bit of, dynamite to the show. Spark it a little bit. Will Manchester United get top four? Will Man United get UCL football? So Champions League football, which is probably going to be 4th place, but could be 5th place if Man City and Arsenal do well in Europe and Liverpool, Brighton and Villa do as well. So, yeah, look, I don't think top four... I wrote top four off before Christmas. Doesn't mean it can't happen, but you have to beat Villa for it to happen. You have to. And then when you look at what the home and away records are at the moment, bringing a bit of stats into this... Home records in the Premier League this season. Liverpool have got the best, joint with Arsenal, 29 points. Liverpool haven't lost at home. They've won 9 and they've drawn 2. Aston Villa, 28 points. They've won 9, drawn 1, lost 1. Scored 30 goals. No one else has scored more home goals than Aston Villa this season. In fact, they're joint top with Arsenal and Liverpool with 30 home goals. Away, they've only conceded 11. Manchester United's away record, conceded, they've only conceded 11. So 9 wins at home for Villa, 1 loss, 1 draw, 30 goals and 11. I mean, they're nearly averaging 2.7 goals per game at home. And they're only conceding 1 per game at home. So it just shows you how dominant they have been at home until recently. Man United's away record, 5 wins, 1 draw, 5 losses, only 13 goals scored, 14 conceded. So look, if you look at it like that, you would say Aston Villa are the favourites in this because of their record, of course. But their recent record is 2 losses away at home, whereas our recent record is 2 wins in a row, playing a lot better brand of football. I say to you, kind sirs and kind ladies, who's the favourite in this game? Who is the favourite in this game? I would still push it onto Aston Villa. I don't want the favourite mantle. We might be the team in form, but I don't want that. Villa are favourites. Put the pressure on them. What I've seen from Aston Villa, and I'm going to show you my predicted lineup in a moment. What I've seen from Aston Villa, and I've watched them play in their last... I didn't watch them play Sheffield United 90 minutes, but I watched them play Newcastle. I watched them play Chelsea last night. And what I've seen from Aston Villa is, when things are going well, they're a really good team. And that's why, at home, I think they're a really good team. But when things go wrong, they don't seem to have an answer. Chelsea scored ridiculously early yesterday. They didn't really get back into the game, Villa. Newcastle were dominating them from early on, and they never really had a response. So I think the lesson and the cliche and the repeat message from me is that I've said this a lot about United this season. If we score first, I think we've got a great chance. If we concede first, I think we struggle. Well, actually, I think it's the same with Aston Villa. I think if they score first, they tend to go on and win. And if they concede first, they don't seem to have the experience to come back into it. So the first goal is going to be key. And again, people will say, oh, well, Michael Owen's at it again. Michael Owen FC saying the first goal's key. But some teams do respond to conceding well first. They don't want to, but some teams, when they concede... I mean, look at Man City. Man City concede first, you know what's going to happen. So some teams do respond well to conceding first, but I don't think we do, and I don't think Villa do. So the first goal is going to be massive. When I look at it tactically, and I think at this point I would like to bring in the predicted lineup that we've got on the screen there. When I'm looking at this game and how it's going to plan out, and I'm not going to mess about here. I'm not going to beat about the Kate Bush. I'm going to say right here, right now, my prediction in this game, and I'd love to get some of your thoughts. My predictions in this game. I'll read those super chats in a moment, by the way, because they're on my screen. I won't miss them. I think this is going to be a draw. I can see a draw in this. I actually think 1-1. I think this will be a draw because I think Villa can't afford to lose 3 in a row at home, and Man United can't afford to lose. So logically, what sort of benefits both parties a draw? So that's what I'm going to go for. But we both need to win this. It's a game Villa can't afford to lose, and it's a game we can't afford to lose. And like Ten Hag said, it's a cup final for us. What I will say is, though, you can learn a lot from the Newcastle win against Villa. And I do watch games tactically, as I'm sure you do as well. And Aston Villa this season, and they have missed Pau Torres, by the way. You know, we miss Martinez, they miss Torres. Left-footed, left-sided centre-back, takes the ball from Martinez, feeds it into the midfield and triggers the attack. They do miss Torres. He probably will be back at the weekend because he was on the bench last night. But what Newcastle did really, really well against Aston Villa was they broke well. And you do have to break well against Aston Villa because you can get in behind quickly, and that's going to play into our hands, I think. But what they also did is they almost went man-to-man on Kamara and Luis Diaz. Douglas Luiz in their midfield, because everything goes through them. Everything goes from Torres to Diaz to Luis Diaz. I'm getting his name. Have I got it right now? Douglas Luiz and Kamara. It goes into them. And what Newcastle did really well is they pushed up the pitch themselves and they almost went man-to-man on them, so they couldn't play through the midfield. They ended up hitting long balls, which, didn't help anybody. So I'm just wondering whether I know Ten Hag will have picked up on that because I've picked up on it, you've picked up on it, so Ten Hag will have picked up on it. But I wonder whether that'll be a tactic or ploy from Man United to actually press higher up the pitch and try and close down Douglas Luiz and Kamara higher up the pitch. Well, this is something Ten Hag do all season. He wants to engage teams high up the pitch, win the ball back and transition quickly. So that could be a real key. I think you've got to pressure Villa. I think you've got to pressure Villa, because if you don't, then they get on the ball, they're at home, the crowd settles. It's going to be a really nervy crowd on Sunday. There'll be a big atmosphere, but the atmosphere will be big when the ball kicks off, but it will only stay bubbling if Villa can get on the ball and do things. We've got to stop them doing that. But of course, when I look at this team, if you implement a higher press, and we saw that with Casemiro, that high tackle that landed to Højlund against West Ham and he scores, if you do that, and we can do that with Bruno, Mainoo and Casemiro, but if you do that and they bypass it with a ball over the top, Varane has to play. Luke Shaw and Dalot have to be wary, because Harry Maguire on a high line, that's his biggest weakness. And I'm not saying he's weak. I would definitely pick him. But if Ollie Watkins or Diaby or Bailey attach themselves to Maguire and there's a quick transition ball over the top, that could be problematic. But that's where Onana's got to be clever as well. So look, a little bit more tactical conversation in this preview, but that's because it's such a big game for United. I think we've got to nullify that midfield. It's how Chelsea did well. It's how Newcastle did well. They never allowed Kamara and Douglas Luiz to settle on the ball. So we've got to engage that midfield with a real tenacity and speed. And we've got to transition quick. They've got to... normally I'd talk about Villa and their high line. I remember saying on Boxing Day... a lot of people wrote us off on Boxing Day, but I was like, if there's one team that suits Man United at Old Trafford, it's Aston Villa, because Emery is relentless with that high line. He will play it. He won't abandon it. And they were 2-0 up at Old Trafford at half-time, and he didn't abandon it, even though we were playing well in 5 minutes before half-time. So, look, if he continues with that tactic, and I think he will, you've got Marcus Rashford, Rasmus Højlund, and Garnacho, who are all clever enough to get in behind, especially Rashford. I think Rashford could be really key here. I can't remember whether Matty Cash actually played against us at Old Trafford. I think he might have been suspended. But, Rashford's going to be key in this game, and... there will be goals. There will be goals. The way Villa play actually suits us if we play half decent. We need to defend well. I'm really excited. I think this is going to be a game for the purists. I think it's going to be a really good goal-scoring game. But you've got to score first. You've got to score first. Let me talk about the team in a moment. I'm just going to catch up with some of the Super Chats. What do you think about number 5 committing to the tackle high up the field like we saw last game? He's going to get beat for pace anyway, right? Says Thomas. Look. I would go with Maguire and Varane. I think they're our 2 best centre-backs. If you play Johnny Evans, he's going to struggle with the same thing. If you play Victor Lindelof, I don't think this season he's playing as well as he did last season. Remember when Lindelof played with Varane, it worked quite well. So I think logically, Maguire has to play with Varane. And if you do that, like we saw against West Ham, you can still push up the pitch with Maguire. But Dalot and Luke Shaw have got to really work hard, because remember when West Ham got in behind Maguire a couple of times in the second half at Old Trafford, Dalot's last-ditch block on Bowen stopped what would have been a certain goal, and then the break down the left-hand side where they cut it back, Luke Shaw motoring on the diagonal to cut it off as well. So the fullbacks are massively important. We can't just sit on the edge of our box. We can't. If we sit on the edge of our box, Villa get hold of the ball in the midfield, it'll be a long afternoon. Yes, it's a risk with a Johnny Evans or a Lindelof or a Maguire because they've not got that natural pace, but we've got to do it. We've got to do it. So the fullbacks are massively important in that. Let's hope Villa keep their high line, suits our 3 fast front people. I think they will, Carlos. I mean, what else are they going to do? They're at home. They've played it all season. I don't think they can't play their high line, to be honest. Torres and Zaniola are back, says Nick. And greetings from Malaysia. It's 4 a.m. here. Thanks for the great content as well, Mark, says Nabil. Thank you, mate. People calling Mainoo a tidy Fred regen is an insult, says Mario Franco. Look, as I said before, I don't understand why Kobbie Mainoo is the next Pogba or anything else. The one player, if I had to pick, that Kobbie Mainoo reminds me of a little bit, and only a little bit, is Jack Wilshere. And Jack Wilshere, before injury, was a very technically gifted, well-balanced, tenacious midfielder. And I'm not going to say Kobbie Mainoo's Jack Wilshere. I'm not. But I remember prime Wilshere, and he did have that balance, the ability to dribble, the ability to tackle, really good passing range, could score a goal. So, but Kobbie Mainoo's Kobbie Mainoo. He hasn't modelled his game on Jack Wilshere. I think it's just lazy analysis to say, Rio Ferdinand said he's the next Clarence Seedorf. Is he? He's not the next Clarence Seedorf. He's Kobbie Mainoo. Like, why do we always have to liken a player to somebody else? It's ridiculous. His name is Kobbie Mainoo. He's a really talented player. He's not the next Seedorf. He's not the next Pogba. He's not the next Jack Wilshere. He's Kobbie Mainoo. Remember the name. Big up Goldbridge. He knows the rules, says Drew. Please explain why Carragher gets so much airtime, says Andrew Dean. There's others. Anyway, let's go through the starting lineup. As I said, Onana will be in goal. Dalot will be at right back because Wan-Bissaka's injured. Varane and Maguire for the reasons I've just explained. You could put Luke Shaw at left centre-back, but you can't because we don't have a left-back. So he's got to put Luke Shaw at left-back. I would consider Luke Shaw at left centre-back if we had a viable left-back, but we don't. So that's the best four we can cut out. We've still got Casemiro. I know there's a lot of disappointment around Martinez, but we've still got Luke Shaw and we've still got Casemiro. And our major problems for the last 2 months have been no Shaw, no Casemiro, and no Martinez. It's sad about Martinez, and he's a big loss. But remember, we've still got Shaw and Casemiro, and we didn't have those with Martinez for a long period of time. Casemiro's massively important. Mainoo's got to play in this game. Bruno's got to play in this game. We did think against West Ham that he might play McTominay for the physicality and the height, but against Aston Villa, where's the height? Douglas Luiz ain't big. Kamara ain't big. John McGinn ain't big. I was walking past him down the street a couple of weeks ago. He ain't big. You know, if I'm 6 foot, 5'11", whatever you want to call it, I was bigger than McGinn. So he ain't big. They're not big in the midfield. What they are is tenacious, ball-playing midfielders. You've got to go with Mainoo. You have to. And then the front three picks itself. A week ago, we were literally playing Wolves at this moment, and a lot of you were going, why is Rashford in the team? Because it was dealt with. It has been dealt with. And that's our best front three. It was our best front three before the Belfast night out, and it's our best front three after that night. So I think Man United, Ten Hag handled it perfectly. It's not a drama. That's our best front three. That's what we go with. And in a game like this, Rashford's probably the most key player because certain games suit certain players, and this can only benefit United. We talk about the form of Mainoo, of Rasmus and Garnacho, but this game is made for Marcus Rashford. Because of that high line, because of his pace, this game is made for Rashford. But you've also got Mainoo, Rasmus, Højlund in really... Mainoo, Rasmus, Garnacho in really good form as well. So, yeah, there's got to be goals for Man United, and we've got to be clinical. We've got to take our chances. And we have been pretty clinical lately. We have been pretty clinical. The player I wanted to talk about, though, was Bruno. I'd put my hands up and say, massive fan of Bruno. Talking about him this afternoon. Should be the captain. But even I would say, against Wolves, in a very good performance, Bruno was probably 6.5. And against West Ham, again, I would say Bruno was probably 6.5. So I think that whilst I'd argue with anybody that Bruno hasn't been bad, I don't think Bruno's had a 7, 8, 8.5 game for quite a while for Man United. Certainly not recently. So at some point he will, because that's Bruno Fernandes. Bruno Fernandes doesn't have 2, 3, 4 games in a row without doing something. So keep an eye on Bruno as well, because I don't think he's been bad, but I also don't think he's been at the level he can be. So, yeah, could be a big game for Rashford, also for Bruno, and we know about Mainoo, Højlund and Garnacho. Casemiro's in there. But look, I'm not going to disrespect Aston Villa. I'm not. I think that I was looking at the Villa team the other day, and it's good. It's very, very good. And whilst I wouldn't wish injury on anybody, you know, if it had happened, it had happened. But it hasn't. And they have got very, very good options to take us on. And in the Premier League, you can't speak, can't lie. 9 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. And that was only last week to Newcastle. So I'm going to go with the draw. I hope we can win it, but I'm going to be a realist. I've said this many times before. I always believed and agreed that Ten Hag would make Man United better when he got certain players back. Casemiro, for me, last season was player of the year. Without Casemiro, I don't think we get top 4 last year. Many of you know the importance of Martinez, and many of you know the importance of Luke Shaw as well. So when you've not got those 3 players, and then you have got those 3 players, it's not a major shock to me that we've got better. I thought the Wolves result was fantastic. They're a very good side. I thought the West Ham result was a really good result. They're a very good side. But realistically, if you'd said to me we were going to take 9 points from Wolves away, West Ham at home, and Villa away, I'd have said, you're having a laugh. You're having a laugh. So look, we've taken 6 from 6. If we get a draw, 7 from 9 actually is a really good return in 3 games. If we win it, you know what? I want to hear those plaudits. But I'm a realist. I think that we will be up and down this season. I still think that when you make subs, and look, was it not last season that we were 2-0 up against Villa away? Yeah, it was last season. We were 2-0 up against Villa away from home. I think it was the game where we didn't have a British player on the pitch. I'm pretty sure. I think Rashford was injured. Yeah, I think it was Varane and Lindelof at centre-back. Pretty sure last season it was an all-foreign Man United 11. We were 2-0 up. We played really well. And then I think he made subs and they got back in the game, and I think it ended up being a draw, 2-2. So again, warning, we could play really well like we did against Wolves for 60 minutes, 70 minutes, and then you've got to make your subs. And as we know, when we make those subs, it's not the same. You take Rashford off, it ain't Rashford. You take Højlund off, it ain't Højlund. You take Mainoo off, it ain't Mainoo. You take off Luke Shaw, it ain't going to be Luke Shaw. And I think that we've got to be realistic about that on Sunday and for the rest of the season. My eyes are wide open to what Man United's problems are this season, and it ain't Erik ten Hag. It's the squad. We don't have a squad. And every time we make subs, there seems to be a bit of a drop-off. So we could play really well for an hour in this game, start making subs, and Villa get the momentum. Because Villa have got some bloody good subs. I mean, they brought Diaby off the bench the other night. Jacob Ramsey's on the bench. They've got some good players. So I think I'm going to go with a draw. But I am realistic about, if we get anything more than that, the team deserves huge praise. And I do think there will be bumps in the road between now and the end of the season. We've got to go to the Etihad. We've got to play Liverpool and Arsenal. We've got to go to teams like Brighton. So we're not going to go on some mad winning run, not in this league, but let's see what we can get. Bruno plays 90 minutes in every game. Where should we play Mount? Can he track back on the right? Says Carlos. Well, start chucking your questions in. It's a Thursday night, and I've not done a Q&A for ages, so start chucking your questions in. Anything you like. Let's get interactive. Just want to thank you for everything you do. Højlund interview was brilliant. Been a member for 4 years. The fan base is lucky to have the United stand, says Sean. You're a legend, Sean, as is everybody else. Appreciate the feedback. And, the Rasmus interview, it's had over 3 million views across all our platform. I think it's approaching 500,000 on YouTube. Unbelievable reach and positivity around that. Thank you, everybody. What do you think about, I've done that from Thomas Hopley. Yeah, I mean, just going back to Mason Mount, which Carlos was talking about. I mean, Mason Mount, to me, is an exciting mystery. With the day we bought him, he was an exciting mystery, and he still is an exciting mystery. But it could be like opening a present that looks really exciting and ends up being a real letdown. I'm very consistent about Mason Mount. I never really got the hype when he was at Chelsea for his first year or two. And then I watched him and I went, I get it. And I think he won Chelsea Player of the Year 2 years in a row. Last season, he didn't play very well. I don't know what went wrong. He's been injured all this season. There is a good player in Mason Mount, and I'm not going to pretend that I haven't said that I like him as a player. But what I will say is, when we signed him, a lot of United fans didn't get it. They were like, why are we spending £55 million on Mount? A lot of people were dead against it. I remember it at the time. And I said, look, I'll concede I don't get it, but I'll trust the manager on this. So, we can't just dismiss the signing because he's been injured. There still has to be a patience to give him a chance. And I still am confused as to what he's going to be, because I cannot see Kobbie Mainoo is better than him as the number 8. It's a fact. He's 18 years of age, but he's better than Mount at that role, 100%. So I think, as we said last summer, the plan was to use Mason Mount in the Eriksen role because he's got more legs. Not that he's not more legs, but you know what? He's got more energy. But I don't think that works because Mason Mount's not defensive-minded and you need 2 people who are. So I don't know where Mason Mount fits into the Man United side. Ten Hag obviously does. I do not understand where he fits into that side. You look at that front 3 now, that's your front 3. You can't put Bruno on the right again. You can't put Mount on the left. That's your front 3. If you get injuries, you can, but that we're talking about your first team. Where does Mason Mount fit into that team? Answers on a postcard. Because Ten Hag might know, but I don't. And I don't think you do. You can't put Bruno or Mason Mount on either wing. If Rashford or Garnacho can't play, you've got to trust Anthony or Ahmad. You know, you've got to have a flair front 3. Bruno plays every minute. So he's not going to take Bruno's place, I don't think. And then you're into Mainoo and Casemiro, who you need someone with defensive capability. So I don't actually know where Mount fits in. And I have said a few times, it's really sad that he's injured, but that's not our fault. And actually, him being injured means we don't have to face that problem of where does he fit in? Because I don't think even in Ten Hag's plans at the moment, he comes into the first team. Longer term, could he take Bruno's place? Well, that's where you'd think he would go, but I can't see him taking Bruno's place unless we seriously are thinking about selling Bruno in the summer, which I think would be catastrophic because we don't have enough leaders as it is. So I don't know. I'm very rarely out of ideas, but I really don't know how it works. I think the plan was to go Casemiro, Mount and Bruno, but I don't think that can work. And even if it can work, it can't work now because Mainoo's better than him. We lost to Villa away last season. Was you thinking of the previous season, says Glenny Boy? I thought it was Ten Hag. Maybe it was Rangnick then. We were 2-0 up. It was Rangnick, wasn't it? We were 2-0 up. Yeah, you're right. I can't remember last season. I can't remember last season's loss. What was the score last season then with Ten Hag? I don't remember that. Yeah, it must have been the Rangnick one, yeah. We need a Bruno firing and back to his best. Maybe his position will get better if he trusts the Casemiro double and doesn't feel he has to go all out himself, says Martin. Realistically, who are we looking at to be the long-term Casemiro replacement, says Quentin. I wouldn't be getting rid of Casemiro in the summer. We've seen numerous midfielders play until their mid-30s. I don't think Casemiro is done at Manchester United. And I also do not know who we would replace him with in world football at the moment. Kimmich potentially could come in and do it. I think it'd be a very clever thing to do. Casemiro's 22 in a couple of weeks, by the way. 2 weeks yesterday. Sorry, he's 32. I wish he was 22. But I don't know. We may move Casemiro on. 32, big wages. But if you're going to move him on, you've got to get somebody in who knows what they're doing. I mean, Kimmich is 28, I think. Kimmich is 28. I know it. So Casemiro is going to be 32 next month. Actually, Kimmich is 29. So there's a 3-year gap between them. Yeah. There are younger players, but you do need some experience in that team. A win versus Villa is critical because after Villa, we have 4 or 5 very winnable games despite our inconsistency, says Mojo. And just to let you know what those fixtures are for Manchester United after Aston Villa that Mojo is referring to, specifically in the Premier League. Luton away, which is difficult. Fulham at home, which is difficult. Man City away, which is very difficult. Everton at home, Sheffield United at home, Brentford away. So apart from City, I do sort of agree with Mojo. There are games there to go and win. But we've got to win at the weekend. We've got to win at the weekend. Let's have a catch up here. We've gone there. Just want to thank you. Bruno plays out. Ray says, mad, yes. Lindelof left back and Shaw centre back. Villa aren't massive on the wings, but do pose threat down the middle with pace, says Ray. It's not impossible that we pick Luke Shaw at left-sided centre-back, but it'd be harsh on Maguire. It would be harsh on Maguire, who, all right, there was a couple of errors against West Ham, and but we're not playing FIFA. We're not playing Football Manager. People do make mistakes in a 90-minute game. And we kept a clean sheet. So I think you'll go with Maguire and Varane. I think I would agree with that, yeah. Would you rather play the way Ten Hag wants but results go south, or keep playing this counter-attacking style and have a chance of getting top 5? Says Chikorito. But we can't play the way that Ten Hag wants because the players can't play it. So don't do it. You know, it's a bit like playing Russian roulette, but you don't take any bullets out. You know, don't play it. It's suicide. You can't do it. So, yeah, we can't play Ten Hag style of football. So we've got to play the style of football that gets results, which is what the problem has been for most of the season. And this summer is crucial in relation to that. I mean, I saw, and I'm going to have a look. I can't remember where I saw it, but I saw an article today about Ten Hag wants to bring in an experienced, proven striker this summer. And I thought, I don't think he does. I genuinely don't think he does. I think he wants to bring a striker in, and that he may well want an experienced striker, but I don't think he wants to bring in an experienced, proven striker, because what does that do to Rasmus? You know, as I said at lunchtime, you can't have a striker that's fought through so many barriers, lack of service, and then go in the summer, yeah, you've done really good on your development. You're really turning into a top striker. Anyway, you're on the bench now. Rasmus has to be the guy. Rasmus has to be the striker. And you've got to bring a striker in that at the very best challenges him. But you can't bring in a... What I'm saying is, don't bring Victor Osimhen in, because Rasmus is going to be on the bench. That would be stupid. You bring in a Ferguson, or you bring in an Ollie Watkins, or someone like that there's a battle there, but you don't want a hierarchy striker. And what I mean like that is hierarchy. He's number one. You're coming in as number one. What does that do to Rasmus? We're not going to play with the front two. Those days are gone. Let me just catch up with the chat here. Just on the poll, by the way, will Manchester United get Champions League football? 43% of you. Oh, I've got an itchy eye here. That's because I sneezed. Allergy. Will Manchester United get Champions League football? 43% of you say yes. I'm loving that. I'm loving that positivity. 57% of you say no. I will be with the 57% on that, because I think it's really difficult. I do. I think it's really difficult for United to do it, because if we go back to that league table, you've got to win at Villa, because there's plenty of games left. But I can't be a hypocrite. I've said it on That's Football. I've said it on the podcast. There's no way that Newcastle are getting top 4. 33 points, 13 points off Villa. There's no way Brighton are getting top 4. Chelsea, forget about it. Wolves, forget about it. There's only one team that's got half a chance of getting top 4 outside of the top 5, and that's Manchester United. We're the only ones that have got half a chance. And I don't even think it's half a chance. If you want a percentage, I'd say 30% chance at best. Win on Sunday, I'll knock it up to 40%. Lose on Sunday, I'll knock it down to 20%. But it's not easy. And the reason it's not easy is because the league is so competitive. I think we've seen seasons in the past where you might have a Villa or a Tottenham in the top 4 and go, they're punching above their weight. You know, they've had a bit of luck. And you look at it and you go, United are underachieving. You can see United going and getting, 10 wins out of the next 13. And you can see Villa not being able to win in the next 8. But that's not this season. Anybody can beat anybody, really, below Man City. And points on the table are massive. Somebody said this to me the other day, and it might make sense. I was talking about why I think it's really difficult to close even an 8-point gap at the moment, because it's almost like a 15-point gap in other seasons. And they were like, what are you on about? I said, well, I'm on about what I'm on about. I think an 8-point gap at the moment is more like a 15-point gap in a previous season, because in previous seasons, you might look below 6th and go and expect to beat most of them. But I think in this season, you go down to about 11th, 12th, 13th, and you can't expect to beat all those teams. So if there's a lot of teams that you know you can beat in the league, then an 8-point gap's not that big. But if there's not a lot of teams you can beat in that league, I think you've got to say that gap's bigger than it would be in previous seasons. It's hard to close a gap on this. It really is. I mean, look, what I'm trying to say is we could beat Villa, and I hope we do, and then go to Luton and draw. And Luton are in a relegation battle because Luton at home are a tough team. It's a tough league. Mojo says, Mark, off topic, what's your take on the sin bin blue card trials? Brilliant question, Mojo. And we win on Sunday and it's on, says Shahin. Combined 11, United and Villa. I'm going to do that retro. Okay, let's just answer some of these questions. If you're not aware of this, I've done a video on That's Football anyway, where I basically was quite angry. But having read about it a little bit more, the blue card, you'd have a yellow card, a blue card, and a red card. I mean, what are we doing? Are we playing a game of fucking Monopoly or what? How many cards are we going to have? Is it Uno? What are we playing? Fucking hell. We're meant to be playing football. We're meant to make it simple, not complicated. Yellow card, blue card, red card. Red card, we know what that's all about. You're sent off. Yellow card, we know what that's all about. Blue card would be used for sin bins, and also, if you get a yellow and a blue, you get a red. I mean, there's all sorts of combinations. It's a bit like bloody playing poker. You know, it's so stupid. It's so stupid. And my initial reaction is on That's Football to it, and I stand by that. But a further reaction that I didn't say on there was, we've already got people like Michael Oliver who decides to make it about him in the last couple of minutes at Anfield and give 2 yellow cards to Delo that he didn't even deserve 1. We've already got referees who think they're bloody WWE superstars. Imagine what they're going to do if you give them more power. Imagine you're on the pitch and you're picking your nose. Anthony Taylor's going to put you in the sin bin. You know, all we're going to do is make referees even more centre of attention. I always grew up, I remember my granddad saying to me, rest in peace. He didn't say that to me, I'm all right. But no, he's dead. Rest in peace. But he said to me, you can tell a good referee when you haven't got a clue what the name is. And it's true, and it's always stuck with me. If you don't know the name of the referee, they're doing a good job. We know the name of too many referees because they make it about them. And all the blue card will do is make it more about them. I can see a scenario where we bring the blue card in and people like Anthony Taylor and Michael Oliver will be on the same wages as a standard Premier League midfielder. They'll be doing articles. They'll become celebrities like referees in the WWE. They'll be part of the bloody pantomime. No. They should be seen, not heard. And a blue card is just another way to make the referees centre of attention. And they're crap at their job, and I'm dead against it. And also, the big problem with it as well is subjectivity. We would be moaning about it as much as we moan about VAR, because what would happen is Man United play Aston Villa. There's a free kick given to Aston Villa that shouldn't have been given. Delo turns round and goes, what are you talking about? Delo gets sent to the sin bin for 10 minutes. Villa score a couple of goals. He comes back on. We're 2-0 down. We lose the game. In the next game that you watch, the same thing will happen, but they won't get sent to the sin bin. You can't have that. This is the biggest problem this season. We can't have inconsistency, subjectivity. You've got to have defined rules. And the more cards you bring in, the more subjectivity you get. And we can't have that. That's been the biggest problem with VAR this season. That's why we as United fans say, if Casemiro did that, it'd be a red card. Man United are even playing. You watch a game and go, if Casemiro did that, it'd be off. You can't have that. It's one of the biggest irritants of football fans is watching one game and seeing a red card and then watching another one and not seeing a red card. Well, dissent is just ridiculous. So yeah, it would be absolutely stupid. And if they bring it in, it will just be another nail in the coffin of football enjoyment. Fact. The way these blue cards will cause injury, man, as well, says Jared. Villa play Spurs in March. A draw would help us, says Glenny Boy. Who would you like if you could sign to complement Højlund but not take his limelight, be it 30 plus or younger, says Ray. I think this is a great question. Can I come back to that, Ray? Because there's a few I need to catch up on. Angry Jawa has just gifted a membership. You're an absolute legend, mate. Make sure you join the members club and support the channel. Get your badge in. Thank you, everybody who does that, like Terp and Roddy Johnson. And The Ferocious, Marvin AM, Warren G. Big shout out to the members in the chat. Also, hi Mark. I just want to say that when I have been in bad times, your content has always given me hope. Always will. Keep up the great work, says Carmine. Thank you very much, Carmine, and I hope you're feeling better. We win on Sunday and it's on, says Shaheen. Combined United and Villa 11. I'm going to come back to that as well. Mario Franco says Busquets is way older than Casemiro and left Barca a year ago and they sorely miss him. Casemiro is the perfect age for a youngster to come in and learn. I agree, Mario. I agree. Right, Villa, Man United combined 11. Here we go. Goalkeeper, Martinez. Right back, Matty Cash. I just would give it to him. I don't think Dalot has had the longevity of Matty Cash this season. Centre-backs would be Varane and Martinez. I'm not talking about injury. Although Pau Torres has been very good this season, and so is Konza. Left-back, Luke Shaw. Holding midfielder, still for me, is Casemiro. And look, I'm going to say Casemiro and Mainoo, but it's completely red-tinted glasses because you could easily say Kamara and Douglas Luiz. I mean, Douglas Luiz has been brilliant. I'd sign him tomorrow. And actually, if I'm being fair, it should be Douglas Luiz because Casemiro's been injured for most of the season and Kobbie Mainoo's only come into the team in the last 2 months. So if I'm being honest, Douglas Luiz should be in there, but I'm not. I'm being red-tinted glasses. So I'll go Mainoo and Casemiro. I think you've got to play Bruno because I don't really think Villa have a creative 10 in their team. And then, honestly, you've got. Look, I love Rasmus. I absolutely love Rasmus, and you know I'm picking him, but it should be Ollie Watkins as well. And on the right, I'm going to go. I'm going to go Garnacho, Rasmus, and Rashford. To be honest, I mean, I started off so well, and then I've just completely and utterly gone biased. But you know what? It's the United stand. If you caught me on the podcast tomorrow and asked me about it, I might be a bit fairer. But it's the United stand. United. There was another good question coming in as well. Mojo says VAR should be managed AI going forward. I'm sure we get more consistency. I think, mate, I honestly think there is an AI program that you could run in the future that would have all the data of all the red cards and go, that's a red card. Based on consistency, that's a red card, that's a penalty. I actually think AI running VAR would be what fans wanted. And people would say, no. But it would. What we actually need is some sort of computer that goes, that was a red card 3 weeks ago, it's a red card now. That was a penalty last month, it's a penalty now. Because what you need from season to season is consistency. It's probably one of the few things where I'd say computers could help us. Game will get longer. VAR intervenes for blue as well, says KM. Exactly. The people who grew the game rolling in the grave, says Thomas Hopley. And some great questions come in tonight. I'm really glad we've opened it up a little bit earlier as a Thursday night show. Who would you like if you could sign to... And I'm going to do another poll actually on the result for the Villa game. Who would you like if you could sign someone to complement Højlund? Okay, so give me some suggestions in the chat. If you could... What striker are you looking for in the summer to complement Rasmus? That doesn't mean he gets benched or overruled, but is somebody that is good enough. And I'm just going to do this result prediction while I have a think. So for me, I think that I want a striker that comes in and is Rasmus is the main man, but a striker that can challenge him. And if Rasmus is out, he can play. And he comes on. So, I want a bit like... You know what we had with Sheringham, Solskjaer, Cole and York? I want that. Who was the best out of those four? There's a question for you. We'd all have different answers. I want that sort of scenario. I don't want somebody to come in and take his place, but I also don't want somebody to come in who's just not good enough. So I want someone to come in and challenge him, but I want him to be the starting striker. Right, let me just get this poll up for you. Right, get your score predictions in on the poll. Dorian says, I hate the blue card. It's just a way to give the refs a way out of the yellows that could have been a red. They now have a card that they can use when they just don't know to make it harsher yellow. It won't work, Dorian. It won't work. You know why the blue, yellow and red system won't work? Because we don't have enough variety in tackles. It's just, you're absolutely spot on. It's cowardice. It's complete and utter cowardice. It's about knowing the game. I know what's a yellow card. I know what's a red card. When I played under-8 football, I knew what is a yellow card. I knew what was a red card. When I played under-14s football, I knew what is a yellow card. I knew what was a red card. And when I watch football now, I know what's a yellow card and I know what's a red card. Bringing in another one is just a coward's way out. I know what's a yellow card and I know what's a red card. But I won't know what it is when you bring in a blue card because I'll be like, what the fuck? What's all this about? It's like ruining it's ruining the game. It's like learning new rules. Unlikely, but imagine Benzema as a role model for Raz. Too old. Too old, in my opinion. I'd sign Giroud. Too old, Wazza, as well. EA Sports already knows what is red or yellow, says KM. Yep, they do. And Mojo's gifted 20 memberships. He's back again. Well, he's been part of the show anyway, but he's back with 20 memberships. Absolute legend of the chat, Mojo. Give him that W. Right. The player that comes out to me, and we won't get him, but I'll give an honest answer to an honest question. The striker I would sign is not old, but is Premier League experienced and will get better, and his name is Evan Ferguson. That's the player I would sign. I just think it's not a problem to have two young strikers because Evan Ferguson has had 2 years in the Premier League and is developing. He's Premier League experienced. Rasmus is young, but is developing and has got very mature head on his shoulders. Evan Ferguson is the same. You don't need to be 28 to be the second striker at Man United. I would like Evan Ferguson and Rasmus because they're similar age profile. They're not dissimilar players, although they're very different. They're not dissimilar. And you take one off, you bring one on. I think they could, work together to be better strikers. So that's what I would do. But I agree with Ben. It's never going to happen. Never going to happen because Brighton will want £100 million. So he'll probably end up going to Chelsea or Arsenal. But yeah, that's what I would do. That's me. That's what I would do. I'll read some of yours out. Santiago Jimenez, Feyenoord says, Jesper, very, very good. Very, very good recommendation. Dovbik, Girona's striker, or Santiago Jimenez, says Mario Franco. I'm loving this. Evan Ferguson would be great, says the Ferocious. Well, that would be my ideal, but it's too much. Yeah, I've got to agree with Thomas Hapley. The EA AI isn't that good. It gets some of them right, but some of the red cards are ridiculous. And then sometimes you're one-on-one, you get chopped down, and you don't even get a yellow card. So, yeah, it's not perfect, to be fair. Ferguson, Makuku, or João Pedro. I tell you what, Rahil, I do like João Pedro at Brighton as well. Garassi says Joshua, not for me. Brian Brobby, I don't know. I worry about that just because it's another Dutch Ajax player. Son, I would love, but I don't see that happening. Skamaka would be a good option. Is he not tainted by his West Ham move? I mean, I don't know about that. But it's nice to see a range of players being mentioned. Xerxes or Boniface, says Terp. Yeah, but you know what? It was the reason I've gone off Xerxes is because Fabrizio, when he was on the show last week, said that he doesn't really actually think he's the right profile of striker for Man United. Good player, but not the right sort of striker. So yeah, few good suggestions there. Big ups, Evan Ferguson. Big ups, Mark Goldbridge, says Thomas. Thank you, mate. And Spanner says, hi, Mark. I haven't heard about if Nice finish above us in the league that United can't get Champions League or Europa League for a while. Is it still a possible issue? Look, that story still exists. We covered it a few weeks ago. It still does exist, but I don't think... Nobody really seems bothered about it. So I suspect we might be getting a rule change coming in because nobody seems interested in it anymore. And when you look at the French league, Nice are second. I can't see them not finishing in the top four. And United, I can't see us finishing in the top four. So Nice are going to finish higher than us. So they're not going to win the league, by the way. They're 8 points behind PSG. Surprise, surprise. But yeah, I've not heard anything about it. But there doesn't seem to be any major concern about it. I referee in Australia and we use blue cards as a trial. They are nothing but trouble. I hate them. They just make things complicated for no reason, fixing something that doesn't need fixing. This is Alan Marjorie Banks. Thank you very much, Alan. That should be clipped up. Alan is a referee in Australia, They've been using blue cards as a trial. They are nothing but trouble. He hates them and they make things more complicated. Don't fall for the spin. It's a load of bollocks. We don't want it. We should be protesting this like we protest the Super League. Leave our game alone, you bureaucrats. Or bureaucrats. Coaches and players need to be accountable too, Mark, says Juan. Thank you very much. And I think that's all caught up as well. On the score predictions for the Villa game, I'm loving... I'm not a big... I've always said this. I love our community, but I've never been a big fan of our predictor because it's a bit like the Goldbridge combined 11 with Villa. It's totally red-tinted glasses. So I don't think this is a fair reflection of what's going to happen. 18% of you have gone with a Villa win, 17% of you have gone with a draw, and 65% of you have gone with a United win. Now, I don't know whether that's based on logic or hope, but I hope you are right. I really, really do. I think it's going to be a draw, but what a game. I just cannot wait for it. I'm so excited about it. A few people mentioned Ollie Watkins. 100% yes. 100% yes. Ollie Watkins would be perfect for Manchester United. I think he'd come in, he'd be able to challenge Rasmus, but I think Rasmus would keep the shirt. And he's got an amazing record this season. Goals and assists. Plays up front on his own for Villa. They're in 4th place. What's not to like? Apart from the fact that Villa won't sell him. But no, I think Ollie Watkins would be perfect. Absolutely perfect. But it's like Evan Ferguson. It's not going to happen. So you know what I think? I think we bring in an Ollie Watkins or an Evan Ferguson somewhere in Europe that we don't know loads about that's well scouted for about 40 million quid. And then it's happy days. You know, you don't need to buy Ollie Watkins or Evan Ferguson because they're going to be too expensive. What you need to do is scout somebody that can do that job and work with Rasmus, which is exactly what we want. You know why they chose blue for the Ricard mark? It's because every other club's player is going to get a blue card for dissent apart from City. You're probably right, Glennie. I mean, what a stupid colour to pick as well. And I'm not wearing blue tonight to show my subliminal support for this knobhead card. But what Pratt thought, let's go yellow, blue, red. I mean, it's the worst colour to pick. Let's go yellow, blue, red. It's obvious you go orange or fluorescent green or you know, green's too positive though. Let's go with blue. I mean, it's just go pink. Why not go pink in this diverse world? You know, blue. You having a laugh? Oh, the Smurf card's coming out. What a joke. What a joke. Anyway, that Champions League rule would also apply to the City group. They own City and Girona, and surely they would know how to circumvent the rules, so no worries with us and Nice, says Mojo. But of course, Man City will probably finish first, and I don't think Girona are going to win the league, are they? Anyway, fantastic show tonight. I've absolutely loved it. You are the legends, you know that, and I really appreciate your support watching live. If you're not watching live, you're in for a treat because there's so much to talk about there. I'm definitely going to get clipped up on my combined 11. The striker that you'd go for instead to work with Rasmus as well. Some really good recommendations there. Really enjoyed that. We must do that more in the second half of an 8 o'clock show. Get more interactive. It was fantastic. Absolute legends. We're back tomorrow at 10 o'clock already. I mean, I nearly brought it into the show. I've got a really interesting story tomorrow morning, actually, that I think is definitely going to wet your whistle. So make sure you tune in at 10 o'clock. Tomorrow night, 8 o'clock show's back. I didn't do one last week, did I? I was out last week. So 8 o'clock, I'll be running up that hill. And yeah, we had to move the 2 o'clock video from today to tomorrow. It's a very good one. So it's filmed in Carrington. So make sure you watch that as well. Take care, everyone. I shall speak to you all in a bit. Fantastic show. Legends of the chat. I'll speak to you in a bit.